Meet me. Welcome back, boys, to another Epic 7 chat with Dr. Squirrel. Now, the driver for this video is I have to do my Artena crafting thing, and it'd be boring if I just kept clicking on this for like 30 minutes, which is what I'm going to have to do to get something better than this. So I figured I'd turn it into a talk about something I've been getting a lot of comments on ever since I released my thoughts on Conqueror Lilias video, where I kind of advocated for nerfs, and some people sent me some very angry messages. So, I don't care about stuff like that. Like, you guys can criticize me if you want, that's fine. I don't do this for money, I don't get paid shit for this, so, yeah, I just like being honest with you guys, so I figured we'd just talk about nerfs today while I try and get something better than this. But I might just keep this. This is actually pretty solid, but if I could turn the defense into like health percent, I'll go for that. So this is not like organized in any way. I'm just going to go into like a free-form discussion about what I think about nerfs and why I think they're important. So let's just get into it. So first of all, ooh, look at this. This is actually not that bad either. Huh. First of all, I love Epic 7, so I just want to say that because before I talk about like anything that's negative, I like to mention that because people are always like, oh, well, why don't you quit? Well, I don't quit because I love the game. As far as I'm concerned, Epic 7 is the best gacha out there, period, bar none. I've tried a lot of other ones because I was actually trying to expand this channel into other games, and I just couldn't find any gachas that didn't suck ass compared to Epic 7. Like, maybe my problem was I started with Epic 7 first, and all the other ones were straight up ass tier compared to E7. But let's all agree that a gacha with pay to win mechanics is, wow, I'm getting some pretty decent ones, is intrinsically not at all a great or fair medium for a truly competitive game. Let's just get that out of the way right now. A gacha is never really going to be truly competitive, at least compared to something like StarCraft or FPSs where every game basically starts fresh. It just can't be. Like, any game with pay to win mechanics, there's all, unless like the pay to win mechanic is really small, like you can spend a maximum of $5 a month or something, or it's like a monthly payment just to play, that doesn't matter. But if you can actually buy stuff that makes you stronger, like it does in Epic 7, that's never going to be a truly competitive game. Like, let's just, because people always complain like, it's not competitive enough. It's pretty competitive, and it's as competitive as it's going to get for a gacha. Like, if you want a truly competitive game where you get a lot of credit, don't play a gacha, because they're always going to have that valid argument like, oh, you're only a winner because you paid. Like, they're always going to say that. You're never going to get any credit. Even if you're an F2P player, they'll just say you're lying. So don't even bother. Like, if you're looking for a competitive game, like, just quit all the gachas. It's a waste of your time. But anyways, I love Epic 7. I generally love the mechanics, except like dual attacks, and obviously RNG pisses you off sometimes, but in a way you kind of get why it exists, right? Like, without 15% control, comps would be a nightmare. The artwork is amazing, the animations are great, and overall it's just a fun game considering that it could be completely free if you don't want to buy packs. Yeah, there's a lot of boring, shitty aspects like grinding hunts 24/7. I don't really mind that much. Oh wow, this was almost an upgrade. Because at least you don't have to pay attention. The stuff that bothers me is stuff like having to check labyrinths and expeditions and stuff where I have to click stuff that I don't care about. But that's pretty par for the course for gacha. So it's not like it's a unique criticism of E7, right? Like, every single gacha sucks in that way. There's a bunch of crap to do that you don't want to do. But like I said, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Overall, I love E7. And there have been times when I've been burnt out. I think everyone feels that. Like, my big burnout was after my legend put like a season ago, where I basically said that was stressful. I don't really want to even play this game right now, and I just did the bare minimum hunt so I didn't get too outdated. But overall, I think this is probably the best gacha out there. If you guys know of any others that you think are better, feel free to, suggest them in the comments below. But I've tried like Genshin, the Konosuba one. I've uploaded a few on my channel. I tried like the Ragnarok Online one because I used to love Ragnarok Online. And you know what? They all kind of suck compared to E7. So with that out of the way, let's kind of get to the main topic and kind of just start off with Every competitive game nerfs. Now, I just said that E7 will never truly be competitive because it's a gacha, right? And that's true, but that doesn't mean it can't be competitive at all. We do have a pretty active, competitive, high-tier RTA scene with a lot of streamers and stuff. Well, not compared to bigger games, obviously, but they are there. So, like every competitive game that I've ever played, like I used to be big into like StarCraft 2, Dota, World of Warcraft, etc. All of them at some point had to nerf stuff. When top players start abusing things and, they basically do the same things every single game and it can't be stopped, 5 speed roll, eventually it has to be nerfed, right? Otherwise, everyone just complains and the game gets boring. Everyone plays the same classes or uses the same heroes or whatever it is. It just makes the game very stale. And, on average, game designers, I don't think they get enough credit. They typically do a decent job balancing. Everyone always shits on the game designer. Like, they don't know how to balance, blah, blah, blah. But I'm willing to wager they're doing a much better job than the average player would do. Maybe not all of them. But obviously, they can't always get it right. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's just because they underestimate the effect of super talented players. Because a lot of times, a lot of the players are better than the developers. So when the developers are playtesting stuff, they don't see that it can be broken in the hands of a player that has much better reflexes than them, stuff like that. Those little things matter when you're going to the upper echelons of gaming. The developers a lot of times probably, like the players typically have more time and motivation than the devs to find out what's the most busted and test all of it. The developers just want to get paid their salaries and not get yelled at and fired. I'd say most of them probably don't even play their own games competitively because when you're working on a game 24/7, the last thing you want to do is go and play it like you've already been dealing with it all day. But competitive games need to nerf, they need to balance, not just to keep the players happy, but to keep the game alive. If one thing is too busted, everyone who doesn't have it ends up quitting. They just say they can't compete, they say there's no point to playing, they'll just give up and leave for greener pastures. And balance is important just to keep it fresh, like going beyond balance, just to keep it fresh, like having new heroes be meta or whatever. It's just good for the game overall. So, basically that's the only point I have there. Every competitive game nerfs. Why should E7 be any different? But let's get into the main argument against nerfing. And the reason why a lot of people fight it vehemently is how do we get around the fact that people paid for stuff that got nerfed? Because that's the real problem with Epic 7 compared to other games, or any gacha compared to other games, right? Like, if you're playing a game where you're not paying for stuff, even if you're paying monthly or whatever, if it gets nerfed, whatever, right? It's not like you bought it. You're just playing the game, so it doesn't really impact you that much. Like, it's affecting everyone. In Epic 7, if you spent $600 specifically because a hero was really good or you really liked their artwork or whatever, and they got nerfed, basically, like, if you spent $600 on Mystics to get that hero, basically, a lot of players feel like they got $600 stolen from them, right? Because they said, you sold me this, and then you changed it. And that's kind of a valid point, right? You can't really say that's not a valid point. I don't really empathize because I just pull for everything, so it doesn't really matter. But I understand that not everyone does that. But I think the answer is quite simple. If it's nerfed, you get a selector. Period. Because I've seen like other people's thoughts on this where they're like, they won't nerf because everyone's going to cry about getting a selector. And I never understood that because my thought was always, well, why wouldn't they get a selector? If you nerfed it, give them the selector. I have no problem with that. I don't care if they get a selector. If you make their heroes worse, just give them the selector. If that's all they're complaining about, if that's the only reason that people are against nerfs, I don't care. Give them an ML5 selector that gives them any hero in the game. Hell, give them one that even works on newer heroes. It has no expiration date. You can get new heroes with it. What do I care? I don't care what heroes other people have, so I don't know why anyone would have a problem with people getting selectors in compensation for nerfs. In my opinion, if something is nerfed, you should get a selector. You should absolutely get a selector. You pulled or paid for something under certain conditions, and those conditions changed, you deserve compensation. So my squirrely opinion is I have no problem with selectors, and if that's the only reason people are against it, absolutely. Have Smilegate bring nerfs back, and have them promise a selector for every hero they do that to. I mean, historically, they've done that already, but make it a policy, and if that makes everyone happy, hell, I'm on board. Let them recall it, let them get their Molas back, let them get their Penguins back. Not that anyone even remotely close to endgame gives a crap about Penguins. Let them get their Phantasms back or whatever, and give them a shiny new ML5 of their choice. So I think that's the easiest way to get around that. If people are still not happy, I don't know what to say. Then you're never going to be for nerfs no matter what, so I can't convince you, so turn this video off. But overall, yeah, Squirrel, fan of selectors. So another thing I want to talk about that came up a lot from my Lilias video is a lot of people were yelling at me saying, well, what's wrong with ML Lilias? What's wrong with ML Lilias? What about AOL? And what about Belian? And I'm getting a lot of decent ones that just quite aren't better than mine. But a lot of people are saying, like, why didn't you make a video about those heroes? What's the problem with ML Lilias? These heroes are way worse than ML Lilias. And no, they weren't. No, they weren't. I mean, they're bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. Like, I'm fine with nerfing those as well. I have no problem with that. But the next point I want to talk about is games are balanced at the top. Like, when people talk too much, they need to understand their own limits. Like, a lot of these people speaking up have never played a game competitively before. Like, I've played a lot of games competitively. Like, at the high tiers, I was a rank 1 WoW player. Like, so this is not new to me. Like, people speaking out of turn, kind of. You know, everyone has opinions. But, you know, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, except for me. I have 4 of them. But anyways, a lot of people have very strong opinions about balance and certain heroes. And for the next sections to make sense, like, this is the most important thing. People do a lot of RTA in, like, Silvers and Masters and Challenger and Champion, and they'll get opinions in these low tiers about what's broken and what's not. But I know it sounds kind of dickish, but the point is none of those opinions have any real validity. Why? Because at those bottom tiers, there's really only one main issue. No one at those tiers has the hero pool or gear to compete with top players. That's your issue. It has nothing to do with balance. If they do have those things and they're still stuck in Masters, that just means they're really terrible at drafting and really terrible at the game overall. Let's use a common example. Like, what do people really hate right now? AOL. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that AOL is not a strong hero. She is a very, very strong hero, but a lot of mid-level players, they come to me and they're like, oh, she's so broken, you want to nerf ML Lilias, but AOL is so much worse, there's no answer to her. I'm just like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, top players probably don't care about AOL. Like, she's annoying, but she's really, like, never one-picked. Top players, like, she's a liability in a lot of drafts, especially because a lot of top players have the tools to deal with her, and if they have the tools to deal with her, she's dead weight. So at the mid tiers, when you don't have those answers, she sounds oppressive, right? She feels oppressive because she's pretty fast. So if you don't have a fast unit that can speed contest her, and you don't have Mediator Cowrick, and you don't have anything built high ER, because mid-game players, their focus is usually not building like a 300 ER unit. It feels oppressive because you go into every match and when she gets through, you're like, she's going to go first and silence and unbuffable my entire team. I can't do anything. But that's not the problem at the top tier. Top players don't care about her. When someone picks AOL against me, I just bring Mediator Cowrick, or I have a tanky draft, or I outspeed her with something because her base speed's not that high, or I just bring something like my maid with like 300 effect resist. And if I bring any 2 of those things, that AOL is dead in the water, because you know what the problem with AOL is? If you don't actually have the opportunity to have that unbuffable and silent stick, she doesn't do anything. She's squishy, she doesn't do any damage, and she takes up a slot on the team. So that's why a lot of top players don't care about her. She's very risky to draft. She takes up a slot, which means you probably can't draft a knight and also draft enough damage. Like, she's not that big of a deal for top players. But I get that in Masters, it sounds very oppressive. But if they balanced her because Masters players think that she's super oppressive, she would basically be unusable at the top tier because she'd be completely useless then. Like, imagine that they nerfed her to, I don't know. You could think of any number of nerfs, but basically I'm saying at the top tiers, a lot of players, like a lot of games I played at Legend this season, she was on the board and no one took her. Like, to me, that's not busted. Like, busted is that every time they're available, like a Ravi or ML Lilias or something, like everyone's just fighting to get a grab of those heroes. That to me means it's busted. Like, there's no reason not to take the hero. With AOL, there were a lot of situations where you don't want to take it because it doesn't help. Like, if they first picked Mediator Cowrick, are you going to pick AOL into it? That's freaking stupid. Like, you're going to lose. So, to me, it wasn't that busted of a hero. But, that was a big rant on AOL. But the point of the thing is, I get a lot of comments from my video saying, like, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And it's always, like, I don't want to, like, troll people, but all I would really have to say to those people is, what's your rating? And inevitably they're going to be like, well, I have 300 games in silver. I'm like, well, why do you feel the need to share your opinion on what you think is broken then? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, your gear and heroes are so bad that you have no chance no matter what the heroes in the game do. So, that's just kind of my stance on it. Games have to be balanced at the top, like, and it has to funnel down. Like, what Smilegate should do is, probably at the end of every season, poll the top 100 players, whoever they are, because they probably have the most experience that season, and say, what was oppressive? What do you think is too strong? Like, what is always picked no matter what? Like, if you had to ask me this season, it'd be like a Ravi, ML Lilias, and then I don't really personally care about Beeline because of my playstyle. I don't cleave or anything, but I get why she's oppressive and kind of shuts down cleave. Like, cleavers always pre-ban her, and it super telegraphs that they're going to cleave because they have to pre-ban Beeline, so I'd be fine with nerfing her too. But yeah, just poll them and figure out from the top players what they think is really stupid, and maybe investigate that first, right? And then give out selectors if they do decide to nerf, and even ask those top players, what do you think the nerf should be? Because I don't like the way they nerfed some heroes in the past, where they go from being broken to being completely useless. I definitely don't want that to happen. Like, in my opinion, if a nerf is done right, the majority of players should opt not to use the selector, right? If you nerf a hero and 100% of the people choose to recall it, that means a nerf was overdone. Like, the point of nerf is not to make the hero useless, it's just to not make them overpowered. So ideally, if the nerfs are done right, the vast majority of people with that hero still keep that hero. So, yeah, so basically the point of that section was just that, games have to be balanced at the top. Like, I get it, people like RTAing, and they may be RTAing in like lower tiers like Master and Silver, and that's fine. You gotta learn somehow. But maybe don't be so dickish about your comments then. Like, they'll be like, oh, you don't know anything, this hero's so much worse. And I'm like, well, not to be a dick, but I'm in Legend and you're in Silver. Like, whose opinion do you think has more weight here? So, next topic. Heroes will never make a shitty player a good player. This kind of goes back to my topic where I said, I don't give a shit if they give out an ML5 selector for every single hero that's nerfed. Why? Because this is like a low mid-game player thing. They think that a hero is going to solve their problems. Endgame top players don't think like that at all. So this is like when you're drafting in like Silver, a lot of times like maybe you draft something hoping that the other guy doesn't have the counter to it. When you're playing in Legend, the assumption is that whoever you're queued up against has literally every single hero in the game. Why? Because 90% of them do. When you're in Legend, the vast majority of Legend players has at least 90% of the heroes in the game already. Definitely all the top tier ML5. So you can't draft something and be like, well, I hope he doesn't have this hero. He has that hero. He has that hero every time. So my advantage against other players never comes down to them not having certain heroes. I don't care what heroes they have. I immediately assume that they have every single hero in the game. When I did my legend push, I had to keep track of a log to even figure out what they didn't have. I didn't keep track of what they did have. I kept track of what they didn't have. But yeah, so heroes will never make a shitty because this is like what the amateur crybaby mentality is. They're like, you can nerf everything else, but don't nerf the hero I have. I actually had a comment like this on my ML Lilias video, where he literally said, well, I just got ML Lilias, but I missed AOL in the Lion, and now you want to nerf my hero? Nerf those heroes instead. It was like the most like blatant thing. You could probably find that comment on that video, and I was just like, that's a stupid argument. Number one, it's not your hero. Every single top player in the game has that hero. All the top players are pulling every single ML5. And you know what? The top players are not only going to have the same hero, they're going to make better use of it. Because they have better gear than you. They have a lot more gear than you so that they can put better gear on those heroes without neutering their units. Because a lot of mid-game players have that problem. They're like, a new hero comes out and they're like, oh, I'm going to gear the crap out of this. And they're like, wait, I just had to butcher 5 other heroes' gear to get this hero geared well. And now I have 5 units that suck because I had to put like C-tier gear on them. Yeah, top players don't have that problem. They have so much gear floating around that they can gear like 50 heroes to be, end game viable, whereas new players can't. The point of that is a new hero will never help mid game players more than they will end game players. All the end game players are going to have every new hero and are going to gear them way better than you. So what is this fantasy that a new hero is going to help you? It's not. It's always going to hurt everyone that's below the top, right? Like, a new hero is not going to be the band-aid for becoming a better player. The only way to become better in this game is to farm hunts and get better gear. The hero has nothing to do with it. The hero will never help you more than it helps someone like me, who can outgear you, most likely. I mean, not all of you. I know some of you guys have sick gear. But in general, my gear is probably way better than the average person watching this channel. Because I don't think a lot of Legend players watch my channel because they don't need to learn anything. So yeah, the point is, heroes will never fix your problem. Like, yeah, if you're a really early player, new heroes, if they have a kit that does something that you literally don't have a hero that could do, like, in the beginning, like if you didn't have any CR boost in your first full aux slots, it's like a switch goes. It's like, oh my god, I can do so much stuff now that I wasn't able to do before, like, Sirmia Guild Wars or whatever it is. But after a while, when you have a big hero pool, like, it doesn't matter. And it goes back to my argument about giving people selectors. Again, I already assume when I'm doing Legend RTA that the other guy has every hero in the game, so I don't give 2 shits what heroes you have. I don't care. So I don't care that you get a selector. I don't even care if Smelgy gives you half the heroes in the game. It means nothing to me. It means nothing. It's not a competitive edge to me. Like, you not having heroes was never a concern of mine. Like, oh my god, I can't let those other people get more heroes because then I'm going to drop out of Legend. No, everyone in Legend has every hero already. Like, if I click this, like, I have almost every single hero in the game. I'm missing like a few select ML5s, and somehow this stupid Camilla thing just won't come to me. But in general, like, I don't care. I don't care. And most Legend players are going to be exactly in that same boat. They don't care what heroes you have. It's never going to make you better than them. Alright, I think that's pretty much my thoughts on nerfs, but what I didn't want to talk about was one guy actually made a smart comment. Like, I get a lot of dumb comments on my videos, and I usually, sometimes I get pissed off and I'll respond, but usually I just kind of let it slide. But I got one argument against nerfs that I don't know if I agree with, but I actually thought was thought-provoking. Almost a good argument for power creep, because that's been a big talk nowadays, right? Like, there's too much power creep, yada yada. And this guy said, I don't remember his exact words, but basically he said, I think power creep is good because it's better for new players who didn't have the opportunity to pull all those older heroes. And that kind of made me stop for a second, because I was like, he's right. He's right. So this power creep is pissing off players like me who've been with the game for 2 years, right? Or even more. But for new players, the power creep is objectively good, right? Because if the old heroes don't matter, the old heroes that are struggle for the the newer players to get, like old ML5s and stuff, like how are you going to get it if it's not on the Mystic rotation? The Mystic rotation takes forever to reset. But if all of them are ass and all the new ones are good, it's better for new players, right? Because they can catch up. Because who cares that they don't have the old stuff? It's garbage anyway. And people might complain about this, but that's actually what 90% of games do, right? Because I was like a World of Warcraft person. I played a lot of MMOs. That's always how it worked. Like when you played World of Warcraft, if you joined in Burning Crusade, you didn't go do Molten Cry. I get a lot of you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but basically, if you played the latest expansion, you wouldn't go and play the original game's endgame content. You just skip it because it doesn't matter. You move to the newest endgame content, and it saves you all the time of grinding all that old, outdated gear that doesn't matter anyway. You skip right to the new stuff. So, I don't know if I fully agree with the argument, because I want my old waifus like Ravi to be good, but I just thought that was interesting because I've read so many bad points for against nerfs. That was like the only good point that it wasn't even really about nerfs. It was about power creep, to be honest. But that was the only good point I saw for power creep, where I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's Smilegate's plan. Maybe their new player numbers are dropping. They're like, we need to have new players be invested in the game. So let's make the new stuff good so they don't care about the old stuff and they don't get pissed off that they missed out on whatever it is, Ravi or, freaking Charles or K-Rod. All those things suck anyway. And, I just thought that was interesting. And, we're almost done with our little session here. I'm going to roll this ring probably in like 40,000 points. I couldn't get anything better unless I missed it because I was hawking, which is very possible. But maybe it's time to bring reset tokens out. Like every 2-3 months or something. I mentioned this in a video a long time ago, where I thought that Smilegate, every 2-3 months, kind of like how they have that potion of ascension or whatever, just like a potion of descension, where basically, new heroes come out, metas change, and, let us recall a unit. You don't have to give us a selector, just let us recall it and get our resources back. Because back then, Smilegate's argument for not letting people do that was always that they really wanted players to think about what heroes to invest in, and they wanted there to be a cost to investing in a hero and have you, build an emotional attachment to it or whatever. And it wasn't really a bad point. I didn't really disagree with the point overall, but it's been a long time now. It's been a long time, and, even if you did the research back then, because that was the point. Like, I think Smilegate wanted to reward smart players and punish, lazy players who just Mola anything. But the thing is, it's been a long time, and players are getting punished for decisions that were 100% correct at the time because of power creep and meta changes. Like, are you an idiot for plus 15ing, or actually, plus 15ing a K-Ron, but are you an idiot for plus 10ing a K-Ron or plus 15ing a Charles? Are you an idiot if you plus 15 Delencia? Those were all like top tier heroes back in the day. Like everyone used them. Like it was hard to compete without him. So you can't say those players weren't doing their research or didn't invest intelligently. And where are those heroes now? They're all essentially undraftable. Like, no one can use them because they're absolutely terrible in the meta. Like, K-Ron is useless. Half the heroes in the game stripped now, and he can't do crap without immunity. So, was investing in Dizzy bad? She was one of the most busted units in the game. So, yeah, I think the game has gotten to a point where they keep power creeping. They're assaulting us with new units all the time that are so good that you can't afford not to build and Mola them. And I'm not even free to play, and I'm having Mola issues. I have like a backlog of probably like 50 Mola's worth of skills I want to invest in that I just can't right now. And it's like, did I screw something up? It's like, no, all those decisions that I made, like I'm a pretty efficient player, were right at the time. And now they're big mistakes. So I think Smilegate should kind of reevaluate that and be like, okay, how about every 3 months you get a recall thing just to get your Molas back from a hero, because that's probably about the rate, or probably even faster than that, probably like every 1.5 months. But I'd be fine even with 3 months if they let us do it every 3 months, where they basically say, hey, it's been 3 months. Probably a hero in that time period has become complete ass that used to be good. Why don't you use these resources and build something else? And maybe that would spice the meta up a little bit, because you'd have some incentive to try new things instead of being terrified about saving Molas for the next broken thing all the time, because everything that's next is always broken compared to everything that was before. So, alright, that was just my little rant on nerfs. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And, honestly, I should wait, because it's not even close to the end of this event, and I could probably turn this defense 5% into something better like health, but why the hell not? For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to craft it, and we're going to see if we can get that spicy speed pen ring. I actually have one that I made from the second to last crafting session that turned into this. This is a spicy ring, boys. So maybe we can we're going to penta-roll defense probably, but let's take a look-see. Whoa. Okay. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. Almost a max crit damage roll. I mean, even a defense isn't that terrible. It just means it's not going to be like a cleaver. 4% crit damage roll. I would love for it to go into speed. Please, speed. Oh, God. Well, I mean, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's not what I wanted, but even if it went to health, if I had waited for a health one, whatever, 23% health, 23% defense, I don't really care. So this is my Artena gear, I guess. It's definitely usable. I'm not going to complain too much about it. So anyways, that was our chat for today. I hope you enjoyed the ramble. Feel free to leave your own thoughts below, but basically summary is, Smilegate, let's get some of this busted crap, let's nerf it a little bit, and let's spice up the game. Thanks for watching, boys. Peace out.